personality. She works for SHEP, which is Spanish. Actually, go ahead and tell me. It's like a Spanish
That's
Hispanic
the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers.
Oh my gosh, I'm a member of it, and I don't even know I forgot the acronym. But no, you know, she's amazing. She not only is a member of that, and she works full time, but she is also an entrepreneur and owns her own business. She is a public speaker. She's always talking about engineering, getting more women in STEM. So, you know, she is a perfect person for Women in STEM Wednesday, and I'm really excited to introduce on this side Brianne over here. And then, you know, before that, we have some memes for us to review. So I'll give it back to Eduardo.
Yeah, sure. And let's not forget about the sponsors here, right?
Yes.
We have STEMedia, we have Papaya Tutor, and Loomis Automation, which is our company. We're the ones making all this happen. And, you know, with the thanks of Joanne and other people in the bag, you know, reaching out to everybody and just growing this network. So thank you to Papaya Tutor, STEMedia, and Loomis Automation. Yes. So let's start with the memes, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's do it. That's why we're here, right? Okay, so the last time I did this, I don't know, are you still doing the phone thing? Because I don't think you can add stuff. So I'm just going to show it through my phone.
It's on the phone.
All right. On the phone. Okay, so here's the first one.
I think you have to flip the screen on there, the camera, because it's flipped.
Dang, it's like the worst. All right.
Instagram hasn't figured it out.
All right, we're going to do it this way.
Perfect.
All right.
So it says, when you don't know how to answer the question, but your professor gives partial credit.
Yeah, totally can relate. The answer is wrong. You know, you probably got the wrong answer, but you got the process right, which is it's still wrong. So I have professors do that for sure. Can you relate to it?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it was so much more about like just walking through the process, right? Especially in your math classes, everyone talks about show your work, show your work, show your work. And that's why so many of us, you know, logged on to Wolfram Alpha, and it was a lifesaver because it actually showed you the step by step. So, and that was the big part for me, is I'm a very process oriented thinker. I will admit that like algebra was my Achilles heel. So I understood all the calculus, all the DiffEq, you know, equations. It's just, again, when you're showing it, it's like, you know, you don't really know the answer, but they're giving you partial credit. So like show the process of what you're thinking, you know, really show like, hey, I know, or because it's, you know, in a closed container, like I'm going to use this equation. And then if you're literally like explaining where you got lost, or this is what I'm thinking, or this is where it applies, then they start saying, okay, like you actually understand these concepts, and then they can grade you based on your understanding, not just whether or not you got the right answer, right? The whole point of your education or the class or the school is to actually know that you're learning concepts and the application. So that's why this perfect place, right? I don't care if it's not the right answer, you can still keep your butt in the chair. Like, you can still serve the purpose, you know what I'm saying?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that.
All right, you guys ready for the next one?
Yep.
All right.
Oh,
so it's engineering, it simply exists. And poor Mr. Rogers is over here like, I'm not good at it, but that's okay.
It's so funny. I can totally relate to that. That's how everybody feels, really, right? Everybody feels like, oh, I'm not good. Look, I'm making this just simple box. It's like, but you know, everybody's good. Everybody knows enough to make things go, you know, so.
Right. And I know we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about this previously, but, you know, let's just be real. Like, let's just put the cards on the table for a minute. You know, 2% of the world can do calculus 2 or higher. So for those of us that are struggling, and again, we're still struggling between the difference between a differential and an integral, like that's okay. Like you are pushing your brain to do something that is not natural. You know, people have to sit and think hard about this. And so how we apply things, like our brain is literally starting to, you know, become elastic and create new types of patterns and essentially just like pathways, right? Like this is the new way of doing this, in our brain, we're trying to push it to the max. So if you try to go pick up 150-pound dumbbell, like you ain't gonna do so great the first time. You kind of have to work your way up. So that's why with this, like it's literally like, yeah, if you just look at it point blank, it's very daunting, but like you just get into it, right? Just draw your little house. You'll eventually be able to paint a tree.
I want to go back to these comments real quick because it says here that it says I can read it in Spanish. I think people are asking us to speak in Spanish. And I think your mom is here. Ella es mi hija. Soy
Well,
una
I think
mamá
that's
y
my
muy
mom for some
orgullosa. Oh,
odd
that's your
reason.
mom.
Yep.
Okay. Somebody's mom is here, and I'm just laughing
Mom's in
because
the
I'm,
house. Woohoo!
yeah. Anyways, yeah. So just the audience, just give them a quick reminder. We're doing a meme review before we start interviewing Brianne and just start talking about women in STEM. So
We're gonna go to the
let's
next
go.
one.
So this one is when someone argues with me over a topic I know a lot about, so I sit and listen patiently before I explode with knowledge.
hmm It's like mine's
Yep.
That is the
similar
face.
to
Good.
mansplaining, right? When somebody just starts
Yeah.
mansplaining, or
Well, and
anybody
you'll be
really.
amazed. It's not even just mansplaining. Again, as a young engineer, or I'm a very bubbly, very energetic person, like Joanne was mentioning. So people don't expect me to know my stuff. And that's okay. Underestimate me, because this is going to be fun
hmm
when you find out real quick, right? So
hmm
that's the kind of stuff where it's just, I'll sit here and you can pretend like you're going to tell me what's what. And then when I
hmm
come through and rolling out, this is what's going to happen. Then people are like,
hmm
oh, okay. Like you actually know. Like,
I
yeah,
like I
yeah.
like that, Brianne. I like that. Hey, I like your energy, Brianne. All right, cool. That's
I
great.
think this was one of my
Oh,
favorite ones.
Mm.
seriously. Last but certainly not least, when the email says, "Dear Sir," especially because, my name is Brianne, so it's easy. They're like, oh, it's actually Brian. No, no, my name is Brianne. Or I don't even get this right. Like, I call for an engineer, and a lot of us women in STEM, especially women engineers, we talk about like hashtag I look like an engineer, right? Because like I work in manufacturing, I wear steel toe boots, safety glasses. I like getting my hands dirty and turning wrenches. And so when I'm called down to an assembly manufacturing line, there's a huge issue, something was stopped, hundreds of thousands of dollars are on the line every minute. And then when I come down and they're like, oh, no, it's okay. Like an engineer's coming. Yeah. Like I'm your girl, like I'm that woman. So really acknowledging that, sometimes I'm going to get called a sir, and like, I'm an engineer. I'm a woman, and I'm a badass.
Yep. These are all great. Yeah, those are all memes that I'm pretty sure I've already shared and make me laugh every time.
For
Do you
sure.
have any other ones, Joanne?
No, I think that was it. That was the last one.
Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna get right to it and start interviewing Brianne here.
All
Um,
right.
and then, Joanne, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sure you'll be hosting again, probably next week or the following week, depending who wants to tackle it.
You're a
But
great host, but I'm gonna let you
all
guys
right,
go.
yeah.
You're all, this is gonna be a very charismatic and very animated interview, so I'm really excited to see it, and I will talk to you guys later.
Thanks for joining.
Sounds
Nice to
good.
see
Thank you,
you.
Joanna.
Nice to see you. Bye.
All right, Brianne. It's just us now. I know,
Just on the
yeah,
team.
we're gonna, and just for people watching, right, we're gonna be, we're gonna do a quick introduction, and then next we're gonna be discussing, what it was like to start a business and just, your path, and at that time we're gonna be bringing in Brett from Miss Automation just to talk about his experiences and just, have a conversation what it's like to have a startup. So, Brianne, before we bring in Brett, please introduce yourself. Like tell the people who you are, what you do, and yeah, tell us.
Sure. So, hi everyone. Hey there, Brianne here, also known as the People Engineer. I'm incredibly excited. I know you are dropping in. It's 4 a.m. here. It's 2 a.m. here. Like, thanks for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to be joining y'all again with Eduardo and all the other people again that we have coming in and out, Joanne and several others that'll be joining us tonight. But for me, I am a mechanical engineer by trade. So I have my bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering. I guess what else can I say? I own 2 businesses, which is kind of crazy to think about. I just turned 31 last month, which is a surreal. I feel like I'm still 20 in my heart. I guess fun fact, I just got married at the end of the year to a civil engineer in land
Mm,
development. And yeah, like I'm very much passion driven. Creating the People Engineer was my first business, as speaking about tying engineering, very tactical, practical processes, step by step. How do we tie resources to fix a problem to actually your everyday life. You know, I had a really tough childhood that I know we'll get to, you know, talk about my background in a little bit, but just kind of learning, applying my engineering mindset to solve my own personal problems and kind of pull myself out of any rut I found myself in. And so as I learn and continue to learn and develop myself, I share those resources very openly. Like I said, as a public speaker, international public speaker now, as well as a business consultant. I oversee transformational leadership and cultural shifts. I'm specifically focused in manufacturing, continuous improvement. I'm a nerd for Lean Six Sigma. I'm Green Belt Six Sigma certified. And so that's kind of my jam. I live and breathe engineering and continuous improvement all day, every day.
Great, great. So that kind of leads into, you know, getting into business, right? And how, you know, how I got into business too. And that's why, you know, we haven't had we haven't interviewed a person who started a business. So I thought it was a good opportunity to bring in my business partner, Brett from Loomis Automation. So let me bring him in, and then we're going to start having a conversation about starting a business. How does that sound?
Sure. Well, I guess while we bring him in, I'll go ahead and just share a little bit of my background and how I got into engineering.
Sure.
Yeah, so essentially, you know, first and foremost, like I am a Latina. I am fourth generation Tejana. So for any of you Texans out there, or, you know, my fellow Latinas in the house, I was essentially kind of how I found my way into STEM was my grandpa was very mechanically inclined. He was just super smart, but he never had the opportunity to go to school. So he was kind of the baby of the family, but while all his other siblings were kind of, you know, doing their thing and trying to take care of themselves, he had to work at the age of 5 years old, doing hard manual labor. He ended up finding a way to learn masonry, so bricklaying. And when he met my grandma, my Momo and Popo began to build their business. And so he was the very technical side. He loved blueprints. He loved math. He was super good about, again, just envisioning something and making it happen. And my grandma, my Momo, was actually the exact opposite, of very much like a people person, big with, you know, building a business and just very bank smart savvy. And so with the two of them, they created their own business. We're entrepreneurs. And what's crazy is, again, to realize that now she started her own business. And at the time growing up, I didn't realize that's what they were doing. And so when my mom became, you know, in school, like they didn't really know how to pursue education or what good grades were. They just said, as long as you're not failing and you're doing good in school, we know education is important. And so my mom was also very mechanically inclined. She was literally welding barbecue pits in high school. And so she was really good at math and science. When it came to her to go to a career counselor, they ended up telling her, well, just go for accounting, right? Because women didn't do STEM at the time. And my grandma got breast cancer. She ended up having to only get her associate to go back home. And so any chance she got, you know, she just really encouraged me as I was growing up to stay curious, to keep asking questions. Long story short, my mom ended up being essentially a director of IT for a major hospital chain here in Texas. She oversaw all kinds of implementations, new systems. She even taught other countries how to implement these IT systems for improvements. And again, I kind of was interested in cars. I knew I was really loving how things were put together. I would look at a chair and say, well, there's a plastic piece with bent metal and there's buttons. You know, it doesn't grow on a tree like that. How do we, you know, how does this happen? So I was initially inclined and curious. And that's when I found mechanical engineering. I took a hand instrument drafting class. And ever then, I was just kind of obsessed with it. So I really I'm passionate about, again, staying curious, asking questions, really just being surrounded around the world around us and solving problems.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like kind of what we do out here at Lumens too. We like to have a creative environment, and we're actually working on you know, bringing a little bit more culture to the business and just trying to expand and grow our team, really. So sounds like you would be a good coach for us. So
For sure.
yeah, definitely. I like everything that you're saying, and you know, I like the energy, the way you're telling us, and that's why I think it's important to bring you know, here Brett and myself, just to learn about what you do and how you help businesses. So I'm gonna send him a request here real quick. Let's see if he can see it, because there he is. What's up, Brett?
How's it going? Not much. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's. I mean, I was watching earlier, and it's really cool to hear your story and just your passion for continuous improvement and, you know, developing cool processes. So that's really awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I was telling her that she can coach us, right? Because we just started our company too about 2 years ago, and she started hers last year, and just want to talk a little bit about what it takes to start, and just some of the you know, obstacles or any experiences that you guys have. And today is Women in STEM, so just want to do a little bit of a comparison to if anybody has seen any struggles. Is it, I love Brian's personality. I mean, she will kill it anywhere she goes, right? So,
Yep.
you know, how important is personality too, right? When you go see clients and give first impressions. So Brianne, tell us about your experience. What are the first steps to start a business?
Yeah, so I guess I'll kind of tie it a little to my again story of kind of how I even found myself starting a business. So I was telling you guys, I fell in love with engineering, especially manufacturing. And thankfully, if you're again doing internships, do as much as you can, because that's a chance to practice and get experience and learn what you like and what you don't like. So by the time I graduated, I went into international aerospace as a tooling engineer. I essentially created my own rotational program. So as a tooling engineer, then I went to liaison engineering, that firefighting assembly line I was mentioning. And then I actually had a job created for me as a customer account manager in sales and marketing. And I say all of that because I, again, wanted to be a people person. I wanted to help people. I wanted to think through the process with customers, technical minds, so we could get to a solution. And so finding out that this was a thing, just sales engineering in general, blew my mind. And then when I had this job, I was traveling the world, Africa, Middle East, Southwest Asia, having the time of my life. I ended up getting laid off. And so when I got laid off, it was like, oh no, like I worked so hard, I did take longer to complete my degree. Like it felt like the world was ripped underneath me. And several of my mentors and members through SHIP reached out and said, hey, you should start your own consulting firm, like serve as a consultant. And so this was literally back in 2016, 2017. So, several years ago. I'm already on year 3, year 4 around this time. And so that was kind of it. I thought, well, I'm, again, a nerd for continuous improvement. I enjoy helping people. I also have the people skills where I actually enjoy talking to people, and it's not just technical. And so kind of that first step was just starting to ask the questions, like, how do you start a business? What does it look like? Like, what do I even want to do? As an engineer, I have so many different, I want to say, tools in my tool belt, but do I enjoy using a screwdriver more often, or a hammer, or a saw? And so these type of questions is when you start inquiring about starting a business, what you enjoy your time and what really brings you energy, rather than some stuff that's going to suck the life out of you, So that's kind of where I even just got started. I will say initially in my head, I feel like we're conditioned by society, like we need a degree or a certification. And so I went to several of my mentors and thought, well, maybe I'll just go, submit or apply for an MBA. And they told me there's no better experience than you actually just doing it and learning it. And so I don't have my MBA, but again, I've been in business now for a few years, very successfully.
Thank you, Brianne. And just I want to ask Brett too the same question. How's it been? I guess how did you start your business too? Because sounds like Brianne lost her job, and that's when her ex-coworkers were telling her, hey, go on your own. Like, what was your experience like, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I had I call it like a corporate job right out of school, at a desk helping design automation systems, and I was helping out clients and getting exposed to cool technologies, but after a certain amount of time, I almost hit a ceiling with my learning, and the corporate environment didn't really allow me to, I guess, explore things that I wanted to. It was very much, hey, here's the tasks that you're supposed to do. Anything outside of that, don't touch it, and come in the morning, do your thing, and go home at night. And that just wasn't enough for me. I wanted to learn new things and try out different aspects of whether it's engineering or business or just general customer service and communicating with people. And so, that's when I started developing relationships with customers at the time, and got enough confidence to say, hey, I'm smart enough and I have enough energy to do this on my own. And then after some planning and thinking, finally made the jump to make it happen.
Yeah, actually, Brianne, we were talking about, knowing your value before, right? Like that's one of the conversations Brett and I had recently about, once you know your value, it almost seems like you get more confidence, right? Like at the same time, you don't know your value. You're not sure what you're really capable, especially if you're on your own. At least for me, right? I wasn't sure what I was capable of. So that's just one of the things that I was dealing with on a personal level. But yeah, Brianne, I mean, I wanted to do a little bit of comparison here just to see if there's a big difference between like a guy starting a business and a woman, and just, you know, what it's like to go and see clients if you deal with certain microaggressions, like people say, and just wanted to see if that happens to you when you're talking to clients. Have you had any experience like that?
Yeah, well, and even just to, you know, what Brett was saying, I know it's very conversational here, you know, is that he was saying like he felt limited. And that was something from the very beginning that I learned in my internships, was that like I do like touching other things and like playing in other departments. And so when I was actually interviewing, like that was something I would say is like, hey, if you're just gonna expect me to sit at my desk and just do this, like then I'm not the person for you. And I think when you mention like knowing your value, that's where I bring value, is you allow me to kind of get my hands dirty in different areas. So I better understand the product. I understand the services. I understand like how each department works and moves. And so if you're just, again, you're just going to be stuck here, that doesn't allow me to be the full engineer that I can be, nor that I want to see myself in, right? Like that's not for me. So again, kudos to Brett for acknowledging that, and again, kind of having the opportunity to jump out. But for me, like from the very beginning, going into corporate America, knowing my value, knowing myself, and having that type of self-awareness, then started kind of cutting off the same way. And I always compare it to dating. But, you know, if it's like, hey, like we obviously have chemistry, but if you have a totally different value set and you enjoy just sitting on the couch every day, like we're not going to be a good match. I like traveling. I like being around people. I like doing things. And so that's a lot about, you know, the career is within our own grasp. And when you talk about value and customers, that's the same thing. Hey, this is how I work. I actually have like a filtration process, if you will, where you have to apply to be my you know, customer, my client. I don't just work with anybody. Not everyone deserves me. And you know, and that's the truth. Like I change processes. I change cultures. I will save you millions, if not billions of dollars. So if you're not the type of person willing to make that change or have the progress, then that's the type of stuff, you know, then like I'm just not your person. You know, and that's the thing too, is like dating, you know, you're not going to get compatible with everybody. Not everyone's going to work together well, and that's okay. It's not personal, but this is who I am. This is the value I bring. I've already saved millions of dollars in industry and making processes and improvements. So then again, I'm the expert here. You can take it or leave it.
I love that, Brianne.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on some great points, and, you know, just being upfront and honest on the value you bring. And hey, here's what I do and what I do best. You know, if our goals don't align, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, maybe we shouldn't be working together. And yeah, I feel like especially people early in their career try to do whatever they can to impress their boss or impress the company, and they like tailor themselves just to fit into this role that they hate, you know, being in. And you know, it's unfortunate because people get stuck in that. And to bring up your analogy of dating, it's the same thing. You can like do whatever you can to impress the other person, but if you're not making yourself happy, what's the point of the relationship? So
exactly,
totally, bunch of good points that you brought up there.
So just going back to today, which is women's pay gap.
Yeah,
Oh
that's okay. That's all right. It's been a long day.
Gap, right?
Yeah, it's
So today,
women's equal pay day. Women's equal pay day.
Right?
And yeah, it is to raise awareness about the gap that exists.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I want to talk to both of you guys. You know, Brianne, if you know anything about that, you know, please, you know, we're here to listen to you too. And same thing with you, Brett. You're starting a company and you're hearing about pay gap, right? A pay gap issue that people face. And you know, Brianne, what would you tell a business owner that you know is just starting a company and is looking to hire people?
Yeah, so outside of just, again, kind of like the business owner, because I know we have a lot of people, right, 40, 50 people here online with us, and those watching after, is, you know, when we were talking about, and I love that Brett kind of co-signed this value, right? Once you know more, you're able to really you know, articulated. And when you have the right words, when you have definition, like you're able to say more. And so for me, again, I actually didn't learn that there was a real pay gap until I took that first engineering job. And so again, to kind of set the table here, I had been working in industry for a total of 3.5 years before I graduated. Again, it did take me 5 years to graduate with my mechanical engineering degree. It was struggles, you know, there were hard classes, definitely retaking them like the normal expectation is. But like once I got to the other end, I thought like, man, I am prepared. I am ready. Like I did everything I could to be ready for this position, for this role, to be, you know, an amazing engineer I know they deserve. And then they hired someone else like 6 to 7 months later. And again, he was a white male. And we hit it off. We were like really connected. He was in my department and they were like, Brianne, like you got this, train him, teach him everything you know, like you're a superstar. And so just getting to know each other one day over lunch, he kind of jokingly said, and we're sharing our experiences of college and how it was. And he's like, yeah, like I wasn't really involved, you know, too much in campus. I didn't have an internship. And I'm like, wow, like, okay, that's two total extremes, right? I was killing myself, starting organizations, leading organizations, ASME, I would design cars, like you name it, I was doing all the things. And so to learn that he was actually making $10,000 to $15,000 more than me out of the gate when I was bringing so much value was like heartbreaking to me, right? And so it's almost, again, we're going back to that dating. It's like finding out that, yes, I really like you. And I'm like, we're going steady here, but yet you still kind of see your girl on the side. Like, you know, if I'm what you're looking for, then what are you trying to get side pieces for, you know? So that's really, again, kind of the meat and potatoes of the kind of gender gap, because as a woman, there are biases. I am seen as less because I'm expected to have kids, or I'm expected at some time to be like nicer and quieter, and I'm not going to be ambitious, and I'm not going to want all the things that, you know, again, my counterpart as a white male would want or expect. And so unfortunately, like, it's just, yeah, she's less than. There's even research that says the bias is if or when you're hiring me or looking to hire me, that I am graded on my actual results versus white men or men in general, and they're actually graded on their, on their actual potential. Like, I see potential in this person, they could be doing these type of things. Women actually have to show hard results. So when it comes to businesses, or I know y'all were talking about building a culture, it's more about, you know, like, do you see yourself maybe having your own self-awareness of maybe the limiting beliefs or the thoughts that you have about your coworkers? Because that's kind of where all of this even just begins.
Brett, you can answer that. Just kind of hold your. I want to go back to some of the questions as well, you know, before we let you go. So I just want to go back to a question that's is asking, most engineering students fail and take longer to complete. What do you think about that? I just want to get the audience involved here. Sorry to
no, that's fine.
Here. I think they're asking you, Brianne. Most engineering students fail. Most engineering students fail and take longer to complete. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think realistically, like, that is the expectation now, you know. Funny enough, I was doing another session with someone a week or two ago, and the reality is, you know, like, I gave up playing a college sport because I knew I was going to go for engineering. I didn't think I was going to go pro in this sport, but I knew engineering was going to pay the bills and be a good, you know, investment in myself. And when I looked at the curriculum, SEC, you know, only allows their college athletes to take 15 credit hours because they're traveling and it's a, you know, huge undertaking, blah, blah, blah. Engineering majors are expected to take 18 hours their first semester. Like, that is huge. It's their first time in college. Yeah. You know, like, you're away from your family for the most part. You know, it's your first time in college. Like, you're taking, again, college level classes. It's a whole new experience. So realistically, again, I hear your question about, like, it takes longer to complete. Again, like, it's fine. I don't even care if it takes you 10 years to complete. Granted, you know, you do you, what works for you. But even if you fail, that is normal. I mentioned earlier in the live, like, you are literally training your brain to do something that most brains aren't ever trained to do. Like I mentioned, I'll bring it back up again. 2% of the world can do calculus 2 calculations or higher. Like, not everybody got these concepts about integrals and calculating volume, you know, or so on and so forth. So, like, don't be so hard on yourself. If it takes you a little longer, it takes you a little longer. people even appreciate those type of soft skills you're bringing because you're showing perseverance, you're showing tenacity, you're showing your character because you're not quitting when stuff gets hard. And for engineers, especially STEM, like we're being hired to solve problems that have never been considered before. You know, these gentlemen are doing automation that like wasn't even a thing 10 years ago, you know? So being able to understand like that it's new. And if people don't understand your value, again, that's their fault, right? You are a diamond. And if people aren't willing to pay you for what you're worth, then they aren't even for you. They're not even in the realm of deserving what you bring to offer.
Just one more question here from Sandra.
Mm-hmm.
How about when men don't give you credit or when they are taking credit for your work? Have you ever dealt with something like that?
Absolutely. And I think a big part is, again, we go back to the self-awareness, right? Knowing what value you bring. I will say immediately off the bat, I'm a obviously very passionate person. So I very much get defensive right off the bat. I kind of want to go to war, right? Like, how dare you? I worked really hard for that. But you know, if I'm going to work and I'll just, you know, use Brett, for example, maybe he was just excited. Maybe he was just like, oh, we had this idea and we were sharing and like, I had to make sure that the idea got there. And he didn't even think twice to say, oh, it was Brianne's idea. We talked about it. He felt like maybe that would be overkill, right? Oversharing. But then it's like an opportunity, right, for me to be able to talk to my friend or my coworker and say like, hey, Brett, like that was kind of uncool, bro. Like at least be like, hey, Brianne had this great idea. You know, you don't got to go into full detail, but you know, this is something I value, my innovation, my thoughts. I'm a big thinker. Or even, you know, blame it on your boss. It's like, I want my boss to see that I'm thinking and doing better things. And like, let me know if there's anything I can give you credit for, right? Like we're in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And so granted, there are some people that are just jerks. And unfortunately, you have to be a little more guarded with what you share with them so they don't steal your ideas. But if it's just kind of an honest mistake, you know, I have to give, for me, I believe humans are good, right? For the most part, we're more alike
Mm-hmm.
than we are different. And I have to give him that chance and say, hey, man, like that wasn't cool. Like, you know, I feel like we're cool with each other and I'd like to continue a good working relationship. Like next time, just give me credit. Like I'd appreciate that.
Yep. And just going back to you, Brett, about what Brianne said earlier, when she found out that there was a, you know, like a $15,000 pay gap there between him and her coworker, and describing that it was a white male. Like, how do you feel about what you heard there?
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly unfortunate. I mean, that should not be the case at all. And I mean, different companies are structured differently. I mean, obviously, I would hope that anyone in the same position with the same experience would be offered the same pay. So, you know, hearing that, that's terrible. And I mean, as a smaller company at this point, you know, I appreciate and I want to have the culture of diversity because bringing different ideas to the table is tons of value. You know, if a bunch of white males probably have the same more or less thought process, but let's bring in people of different backgrounds. It doesn't need to be gender or race focused, but just, you know, backgrounds in general, different problem solving approaches and things like that. So to me, diversity is incredibly important, especially with what we do. We're trying to solve advanced problems, you know, looking at things differently and bringing different approaches to the table is worth a ton.
Yeah, it's I always find it interesting how people find out. It's like they were having a conversation and like, oh, he's getting paid that much more, and then you hear about it and you're like, yeah, you're pissed, right? You're like doing the same thing. I personally haven't dealt with that. I haven't really found that out, but I mean, it's probably happening, right? I'm not sure. I haven't dealt with it. And yet, you know, just to, you know, before letting you go, Brett, you know, one last question is this pay gap issue, like how do you think we can solve an issue like this?
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back to valuing diversity and just being aware of the decisions you're making as a company, right? Being self-aware is extremely important, and always sitting back and analyzing decisions, whether it's who you hired or, you know, who took the lead on a certain project. So just, you know, looking internally and reviewing it and, And, you know, just radical honesty and transparency, I think is a good way to at least start. And just being in touch with your employees. And I mean, we talked about like how managers don't give credit to people. You know, that's just, I don't know, as a leader, that's also sad to hear, because a good leader should always take the blame and never take any of the credit. So, you know, approaching things like that, where we need to listen to our people, we need to appreciate diversity, and really look at ourselves, you know, in the mirror and say, are we doing what we can to treat everyone honest and equal and fairly? So,
And just going back to some of the questions, because they're pretty interesting. Is it prefer not to talk about how much you're making, as in it's taboo? Diversity and inclusion is essential in the growth of companies, but not all follow the same vision. So is it good to talk about what you make to people? That's really their question. Brianne, do you want to go first?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, right? This is always kind of the dichotomy of life. There's always like a tightrope, and it's one side or the other. So as business owners, like, let's just be real, right? As a business owner, if I can pay you less because you're not smart enough to tell me like this is my rate, then like you're giving me a discount, right? And so why would I not take advantage of that, right? If I can give you a sushi roll for $2 and you're like, but this is worth $20. Are you sure you want to give it to me for $2? Like, I'm not going to deny sushi. I love sushi, you know? So that's kind of the big part. And especially in any, again, demographic, yes, there could be more transparency. But again, the way that it works now is that is up to the company, the business, the culture. So they don't have to give it up. They don't have to share that information. But what there is, you know, we have so many different portals of data readily available to us. Salary.com, Glassdoor.com. You know, you can literally just Google what is the median for a job position. You can look for the city. You can look for the years of experience. You can look for all the things that you have certifications for similarly, and it shows you an actual range. This is the median, and it usually kind of has a bell curve, right? So this is kind of where that salary gets started, and this is kind of where it tops out at. And so you can see within it, oh, this is what it gets paid, expected for these deliverables. Again, even particular to city and state. So I think that's the big part where, again, transparency or not, it falls on you, right? The only person that's going to look out for you, it is your responsibility to do your research and do your homework to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success.
What do you think, Brett? Should people talk about how much they make at work?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally that's always been like a taboo thing to talk about. And I mean, to Brianne's point, you know, as a company, if you can hire someone for less, you know, I guess that seems like a good business decision. I mean, I would love for more companies and CEOs to not be worried about their own personal paycheck, or, you know, companies have to be profit focused. They have to make money to exist. But at the same time, you know, I'd love to see more companies be about investing in their people and supporting everyone, top to bottom. And so, you know, I want to, at least from my own personal standpoint, right, I want to run a business with integrity and never have to ever lie or anything like that. And so, you know, if a certain position to me is worth a certain dollar value, no matter who you are, I'm coming with the mindset of this is what this position is going to make. Now, you know, maybe you can negotiate up or down 5%, but definitely shouldn't be, you know, 10, 15% swing, just depending on who you are.
Yeah, you know, something that comes to mind and something that will be brought up in meetings were A players, right? Who are the A players? Like, what do you mean A players? Like, are they making more money? Like, who are the B players, right? So I remember managers talking about that. So it just makes me think like they're, you know, they're kind of going with everything they say. They even the A players break the rules and they're okay with it. So I would see that happen. And it had to do a lot with sales, which is fine. But, you know, there's people that break rules, and how do we deal with that too, right? It's like, and have you guys dealt with anything like that? Have you heard of stuff like that, Brianne?
Yeah, and to me, again, it's all about like company culture, right? At the end of the day, if they value cutting the line and, you know, just being shady, to me, like, is that the company I want to work for? Like, that's not someone I want to go into leadership with. I mean, we even think of like politics, right? And that's the reason why we have distrust with our own government, right? So it's like that type of thing. Like, do I want to be at a company like, you know, the Joe Schmo beside me is getting rewarded for being shady and like not being a wholehearted, just true person? Like that's not what I want to be around. So you have the choice to choose. And that's the one thing no one can ever take away from you, right? Is like, you have a choice. So even I know in the comments and the questions here we're asking, like, what if I don't feel, or what if they don't understand the value? Like, then you have the choice to walk away. You have the choice to actually stay there, build your resume, gain the skills or the certifications, whatever you need in the meantime. But like, that's kind of you setting yourself up for the next thing. So for me, like I said, it's just, if the people are cutting corners and just being shady, like, that's not who I want to be associated with. So not that I have to just cut them off immediately, right? I got bills to pay and food to eat. But like, I can start planning my escape plan, because I mean that I just don't play those games.
I know what you mean. Any last words, Brett, before we let you go here?
No, I mean, yeah, I think hopefully, you know, like in this modern day with like sites like Glassdoor or other, you know, forms of, whether it's transparency or social media or whatever you want to call it, you know, hopefully, you know, people are bringing these issues to the forefront, and, you know, companies that truly have big wage gaps or treat other employees unfairly, hopefully that's being brought into the light now. So, you know, hopefully that's getting better, but it's still incredibly disappointing to see, you know, different treatment between men and women and different pay. And hopefully more and more companies try and help bridge that gap and really support their people from the bottom up. So, yeah, Brianne, it was awesome talking with you. You had tons of great ideas, and I love your energy. So cool. Hope we get to talk again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, thanks for being here, man. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll see you tomorrow morning. All right, man.
Yep. All right.
Alrighty. All right, that was Brett from Loomis Automation. He's also my business partner. I'm glad he came in because, you know, we wanted to hear your perspective, and thank you, Brett, for being here. So, yeah, so we still got a few more minutes. You know, the last topic I want to discuss with you is just the power of social media and how you use social media to, you know, communicate with people, connect, and try to influence and, you know, bring some positivity to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think social media and technology in general is just such a strong tool. I mean, look, like at a time with COVID, I know I mentioned like 10 years ago, right? But it would have been crazy to think that we could just jump on a video call and have a conversation, or that people all over the world can join in and I can ask a question for me live, literally from my living room, and you and I being in different time zones. I mean, we're progressing so much so fast, and social media is literally just a conduit, a new way for us to connect. And, you know, for me, I jumped on Instagram when it first started, you know, back in, I don't know, 2012, 2011. And similar to everyone else, like, oh, I can be a photographer. It has cool filters and like all this fun stuff. But then I realized the more that I was experiencing, I thought, oh, this is almost like, you know, a virtual photo album. I can take a picture of the stuff I'm learning and working on with my internship at the time in school. And so when I graduated in 2013, I still go back and look at posts, right? Joanne and I were doing this today. But to go back and just really almost like your yearbook, right? Recall stuff and connect with people. So even just utilizing hashtag Women in STEM, you know, I've been doing that for the last 7 years. And to connect with people all over the nation is just amazing. You know, I follow hashtag engineering and I learn new stuff all over everywhere, you know. So the power of social media is just that opportunity. It is a conduit. As human beings, like, our community is to stay in communion with each other, to stay connected and engaged. And so it's amazing what all we can do with, again, simply just sharing on a screen.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, this Women in STEM Wednesday, it's just, I've seen the power of it, and just how much how much people are really supporting it, and never thought I would be doing this, first of all, and I wouldn't be doing it without, you know, Papaya Tutor and STEMedia. Those are the two people that initially started this, and it's just growing, and I'm just excited about the future and see how we can use these tools and, you know, even the tools are getting better. Like Instagram is doing these live things, and something that wasn't, you know, happening before. So it's just interesting. It's interesting what tools you use. And, you know, for everybody watching, like, you wanna share what social medias you're in. Are you mainly on Instagram, or where can they find you at?
Yeah, so any and all, you can just find me at Brianne C. Martin. Obviously, in the posts that we've been sharing, or here is my profile as a guest featured. But yeah, Brianne C. Martin. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. Instagram is kind of where I share a little bit more behind the scenes, my day-to-day life. I do make myself readily available for conversations. As the people engineer, as I was mentioning earlier, that I do focus on, you know, processes and audits and assessments, as well as just kind of the everyday life of a human, right? Like, I posted a picture of me crying, I don't know, a year or two ago, because I just felt like that's something we don't talk about, right? Instagram was constantly a highlight reel. It's all the things that are cool, and hey, I got a promotion, and like all these great things. But then it like kind of breaks our reality of, oh, everything has to be good and positive. And if I'm ever sad, or if things aren't going my way, then like my life is broken. And realistically, like, that's not life, right? Like, it's ups and downs. It's meant to be a cycle. We're meant to have tough times and good times. And I just felt like I wanted to make sure that that was represented. I do struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. I have been diagnosed with bipolar symptoms, with hypertension or hyperactivity, depression, and severe anxiety. And so working through those things, finding a therapist, learning to talk out my feelings, learning how to have a healthy relationship with my now husband, like, these are all things that we're personally working on as individuals, but yet we feel so ashamed and scared or fearful to talk about it. We don't want to be judged. And so that's kind of where the people engineer came from. I have a podcast, so you can literally look up the people engineer. But yeah, all that to say, like, I've built kind of a social platform through different platforms online, but kind of, I guess, Instagram's the main point. I also have a YouTube channel. And yeah, like I said, Brianne C. Martin, or look up the people engineer and you'll find me.
Great. Thank you, Brianne. And I know we're running out of time here, and, you know, this is the time where I ask you, or if there's any advice, anything you want to tell people. These are your last words here. What do you want to tell them?
Yeah, for sure. I know we had some questions in the chat, so I'll kind of try to go back too.
Sure.
But, you know, essentially, you know, failure is a part of it. And I know other women in STEM have talked about it. Particularly, again, we're talking about the wage gap, so I want to make sure I close out with some of that. But, you know, like, engineering is really to solve problems. And whether it's personal problems, family problems, social problems, community problems, or again, just like a technical, I want to make my robot go faster problem, right? Like, this is okay. And I think, again, so many times we're really afraid of asking questions or doing something wrong. And y'all, like, this is literally the scientific method. Like, you have a hypothesis, you have a hunch, right? I have an idea, and you try it out. And if it doesn't work, then try something new, try something different. Like, that's literally what our degree, especially in engineering, but scientists, technologists, mathematicians, like, we have a certain science and then we go out and apply it. And so when you're solving problems, there's just so much newness, right? Eduardo, you were talking about, like, we didn't know, and Instagram just did this new thing. Like, how many times did you have to go live first before you realize, oh, to exit, I have to hit the X? Like, we have to try, you know? So yeah, the first time was awkward, and you're like, sorry guys, trying to figure this out, you know? So it happens. And to me, like, again, it's the shame. And if you ever follow Brene Brown, she talks about, like, vulnerability and living wholeheartedly. But here we are, like, we're beating ourselves up for failing, for messing up. And, like, this is part of human. Did you learn how to walk the first time when you're a baby? No.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny because we go back to it, right? You learn how to walk, you learn how to ride a bike. Like, it takes time. Shout out to Lorena. She said, iterate, right? Like, you have to learn. Oh, if I do this, I fall over. Okay, well, then you don't do that no more. Like, it's just a lesson learned. And I just feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves. We're so mean and we're so quick to beat up ourselves. Like, you're never going to learn. You're always going to be scared, right? So I see my fellow agile people, right? Beta mode, constant improvement. And it's all simple to say trial and error. Like, just try things. Like, that's what we do as humans. You try something, you don't like it, you never have to do it again. that at least you tried. So I feel like for me, we were talking about the pay gap earlier, and I know we have, you know, a couple minutes here, but 4 challenges that women face, particularly in leadership. And again, that's the very few top. So we talk about women in STEM and leadership. It's like unicorns, right? But one is an issue that comes up is family obligations. Again, that's kind of a stereotype, right? We can talk all day about that. 2 is limited opportunities for growth. So again, to my ladies out there, make sure that you are putting yourself in a position for success. 3, gender-based discrimination. We know that's a part of it. People have their biases. Like, we have to build personal relationships with people. And 4 is simply a lack of confidence. And so these are research-based. Shout out to Dr. Courtney Baker, who I learned from this literally a year ago. And the 5 things that we can actually do to close this gap, knowing these 4 constraints, knowing that's our uphill battle, that's the first part, right? I'm talking to my engineers now. When you know what is actually you're working with, now we can actually have a plan of attack. So number 1 is to actually reframe the glass ceiling. And again, this is like telling yourself the story. Sure, that, you know, there is a pay gap, but what can I do to meet me there? Number 2 is the gender equality starts in the home, right? So I was talking about my husband. Obviously, I'm here with Eduardo. Like, your friends, the more that you're realizing and understanding, like, have the hard conversations with people you know and love first. Don't think that you're going to be able to go tell your boss or your employer, hey, you need to respect and value me, if you're not having your dad, your brother, your husband, your boyfriend, you know, respecting you and valuing you. Because if these people are supposed to care about you and love you, but they treat you like garbage, then how is anyone else in the public that really doesn't even know you going to do the same? I'll get off my soapbox. But 3 is to get comfortable with hard conversations. 4 is the socialization of media, right? Playing the same team. Like, we're all on this together. So stop being a victim. Don't try to like go bashing people, but really be understanding and really know what you're working with. What is the social media you're following? What is the feed? What are the stories you're telling yourself? And start limiting your circle. You only want to be around people who are empowering women. And then last but certainly not least is the definition of confidence. And again, I know I mentioned choice earlier, but this is literally my life motto. First and foremost, everything in life is a choice. And if you want the true definition of confidence, it is simply your ability to figure something out. It's not that you have it perfect. It's not that you're going to do it the first time. I have confidence in myself that I have gotten myself out of really big messes. I've screwed up royally, and I am still alive on the other side. I've had really bad days, and I'm still standing here. So that definition of confidence, we have to change our mindset. It's not that I know all the things or that I can answer every question. It's that I trust in my ability to figure it out, because I will take care of myself. I will get myself over whatever hump is coming my way. So I hope those are super helpful. Again, there's a lot of great research out there. Please be sure that you're just arming yourself to be prepared, so that way you can put your best foot forward.
Brianne, you're amazing. I just gotta say, your energy really just, you know, excites me too. And you know, I realize how important, you know, how important is personality and being a people person too, right? So as everybody watching, like, look at what Brianne is doing, right? Look at how she talks. Like, she's very clear, and you know, I'm learning so much from you too. So thanks for the
Well, thank
words.
you.
A lot of
It's a
people are
pleasure.
liking it. A lot of people are liking what you're saying, and you know, can't wait to keep this Women in STEM Wednesday going. And you know, thank you for being our guest today, and educating people and telling people about the stuff you do, and you know what, the business person you are too. So it's just, you're just such a cool person. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And if anyone, like I said, would like individual time with me, there's a link literally in my bio, my profile, to schedule time to chat, to brainstorm. If you have a business and you're looking for a consultant, like I said, this is the kind of stuff of shifting the mindset, kind of cranking it up a notch, right? You want to scale, you want to make money, you want to do something, you know, like this is literally my passion, because I see the potential in everyone. And sometimes you just need someone that's like, you can do this, like, you got this, you know, like the only thing holding yourself back is yourself.
Yep.
And sometimes it does just help to have a consultant in your corner. And I know people, again, are coaches and that kind of stuff, but like, again, you will pay me for results. And that's why I call myself a consultant, because like we're going to be making money together.
Yep. That's amazing. Everybody, Brianne, tap on the arrow here, follow her. Make sure you contact her if you have any questions. I know we always run out of time. So send her a DM, slide in her DM. So, all right, Brianne, I think this is last minute of the hour. And I just want to thank you and all the sponsors that made all this happen, everybody that joined today, everybody that's supporting it, Sandra, Nee, Joanne, Brett, everybody out here in the Loomis team. So
yes, thank
you
you
so
to
much.
Loomis for having me. Thank you to STEMedia, my STEM Avenger family. Shout out to Papaya, amazing work with the tutoring platform. And thank you so much for Joanne for joining. Yes, love you, Lorena, people engineer. We out here. Let me know anything I can do to help. I'm very blessed to be able to serve.
Great. All right, everybody. Well, that ends the episode today with Brianne. And we hope to see you guys every week, every Wednesday. So stay tuned. All right, Brianne.
All right.
Thank you
good
so
night.
much. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.